During the 2007 election, I did a video on the ballot paper fraudulent counting system that takes place. Today I want to mention all of the other fraudulent voting that goes on and how the system is deliberately set up by the government to be fraudulent in the first place. Now, in the first instance, the Australian constitutions quite clearly state a voter shall only vote once. Now, that's never been changed in all the different amendments to the Australian Constitution. Now, I've written to the government asking them to give me the legal definition of the word vote. I've even put it on the radio station and giving out a prize for somebody who can give me the legal definition of the word vote. I've had no answer from the government, and the Oxford Dictionary version says to make an indication by the raising of a hand or the marking on a ballot paper. Now, it says an indication on a ballot paper. So, the correct way to vote is to make an indication, one indication. Hence, the voter shall only vote once. Preferential voting is unconstitutional. It is illegal. However, we're not talking about preferential voting today. We're going to talk about the other methods of fraud. The system was set up fraudulent at the very start, and the first instance of that is the fact that you are not required to give any identification when you go to vote. You simply walk up to the polling booth official, state any name you like, and they will say at such and such address, and you only have to say yes. They will rule your name off the voting roll, and they will issue you with ballot papers, and you'll go and vote, and you'll leave the polling booth. And then you'll travel on to the next polling booth, do the same, and again and again and again until you've run out of polling booths for that area. People will argue, oh, but the Electoral Commission will catch on to that and you'll be fined. No, because the Electoral Commission may catch on to it and they might write to you, and then you say, no, I only voted once and someone else must have voted in my name. What a shame. And by the fact that the identification is not required, the Electoral Commission will drop that at that point and not pursue it any further. After all, they don't really want to, because they invented the fraudulent system in the first place. And so we had instances in 1998 where a busload of teenagers went round and voted at every polling booth for their Labor candidate, and they were even blatantly said they were doing it, and nothing ever took place. So that's the first instance of fraud. The second instance of fraud is more subtle, and that is by the fact that we only required to use pencils instead of pens. And as you know, a pencil can be rubbed out and replaced by another mark in a different box. In fact, one of the voting counters in the previous election was caught with long, dark, Gothic type fingernails, and underneath one of the fingernails she had a piece of lead pencil glued underneath. And in the Queensland election, you only have to vote one and one only if you want to, because preferential system is optional there. And she was caught eventually. Whenever she found an empty ballot paper, she would mark a 1 in the box of her candidate's name and then hand that onto the candidate's pile for counting. So that's another fraud that takes place, subtle, but it still takes place. Then you move on to other frauds that take place during the ballot paper count. Now, you all know about the preferential fraud, but another one that takes place is the fact that they count the ballot papers into bundles of 50 and put a rubber band around them, and then put that bundle in front of the candidate that those ballot papers are for, if it's done correctly. But once again, counting officials have been caught, especially in 1998 election, and they were counting up 47 or 45, 47 ballot papers from one of the political parties, and then they'd put several ballot papers of their candidate on top, put the rubber band around the bundle of 50, and then put that bundle of 50 into their preferred candidate's stack for recounting to get a final tally at the end. So this was done, and it was found it's more than one polling booth, and of course spread across the country the major parties get in that way. So there are multiple ways of voting fraud taking place. Now, another instance where a woman went into a polling booth, and she was a foreign woman, she wasn't too familiar with the voting system, and she made a mistake, as some people do. She said to the voting official, "Look, I've made a mistake and I've dropped the ballot paper into the box. I don't wish to vote that way at all. Can I get another ballot paper?" And the lady said, "Yes, of course." She opened up the ballot box, got the ballot paper out, resealed the ballot box with a different set of seals, and gave the lady a new ballot paper. Now the lady said, "Well, hang on, you've broken the seals on the ballot box." And the voting official said, "Oh, that's okay, we've got plenty of those. Don't concern yourself." So the fact that we have ballot boxes that are made of cardboard and can be easily opened and easily resealed by the polling booth officials means that a fraud can take place at any point. And as a matter of fact, I recall a story back in the days of Sir Joe Bjelke-Petersen where Russ Hinds was being interviewed and was alleged to have said, "Well, don't worry about that. Sir Joe will be re-elected. My police collect the ballot boxes." So there are multiple ways in which votes are frauded and fraudulently counted, and it just simply brings up the challenge. And here I have the challenge to you, Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. Stop eating your earwax and actually listen to the people and bring back a first-past-the-post system. The only legal way that the Constitution requires is a first-past-the-post system. Bring it back to a fair system and stop this fraudulent nonsense. Require everyone to have some form of identification, photo identification. It could be a driver's license, could be an 18+ card, it could be a passport or anything with a photo identification on it, which we all have to have these days for banks, etc. So bring in proper identification at polling booths and a first-past-the-post election system. Simple as that. You can do it. Do it.